The Brock Purdy slander has seemingly ramped up this week as the San Francisco 49ers prepare for the divisional round playoff game against the Packers. And we get it. There's a lot of really good quarterbacks in the playoffs right now. But for whatever reason, Brock Purdy is finding himself at the back end of all these rankings and talking about where these quarterbacks should be slotted. And Brock Purdy is catching a lot of strays as a result, whether it's Amy Trask, whether it's just multiple people coming out and having poor things to say about Brock Purdy. Okay, that's fine. Obviously, us as 49er fans, we feel a very specific way about it because we watch Brock Purdy every single game. And right now, what I'm going to show you is a phenomenal video from Jordan Palmer, expert quarterback trainer, brother of Carson Palmer. You guys remember Cardinals quarterback for some time, Bengals quarterback as well. He's one of the top quarterback trainers in regards to pre-draft training, all those different types of things. And he makes phenomenal football content, and he knows the quarterback position. And he talks about how Brock Purdy is a superstar. And I can't disagree with him. And when you watch this video and you hear what he is saying, and he's going to show some film examples as well into what Brock Purdy does well and how well he does it and how it goes over a ton of people's heads just because they don't know ball like that. This should give you a great insight into why Brock Purdy is a superstar. Take a look as Jordan Palmer discusses just that.
Brock Purdy is a superstar too. I know what you're thinking. Jordan, it's the team around him. He's got McCaffrey. Look what's in the huddle. No, Brock Purdy is a superstar too. Yes, he has some of the best playmakers around him in that huddle. And yes, he's got arguably the best play caller in the NFL. And I've heard all the narratives, and I'm here to tell you that they're wrong and back it up with a little bit of tape. He's not just relying on the people around him. He currently ranks 20th in the NFL in passes attempted in the short passing range. He's 19th in the NFL in attempts for passes behind the line of scrimmage. And he doesn't have a single guy on his team who ranks in the top 10 in the NFL for yards after catch. Sure, I won't forget to mention he threw 4 picks versus Baltimore, and he played bad in that game, and they lost the game, whatever. People have bad games. Can't judge an entire season off of one sample size, and I also have been doing this for a long time. You can't just put anybody in one situation and get the same outcome every single time. There's a lot of stuff that Brock's doing that other people in that same situation might not do. Now, for the good stuff. I looked through 41 different statistical quarterback metrics all the way up through week 17. Since week 18, some guys played, some guys didn't. And I knew going into this that Brock Purdy had a really good year this year. Obviously, he's ranked high on every category, but it wasn't until I went through this that I realized how good of a year Brock is having. He's currently number 1 in the NFL in QBR, yards per play, and EPA per play. And that just measures how well a team performs compared to the expectation of how they perform on a play-by-play basis. On deep balls over 20 yards, he's first in the NFL in completion percentage, touchdown, passing grade, and adjusted completion percentage. And even more impressive to me, versus the blitz, he's number 1 in the NFL in yards, yards per attempt, touchdowns, and passer rating. Now, there's a lot to digest, so I'm going to go to the tape here and we'll show it to you. Before we do, QB Summit Tour kicks off here in February, 8 stops around the country. I'm giving you everything I got every single weekend. Middle school, high school quarterbacks, come on out. All right, first play, and it's nothing really crazy. This isn't a highlight play. In fact, you might have watched this whole game and not remember this play. But I'm impressed by a lot of things here. This is not him dinking and dumping the playmakers. This is him playing really good football. So if you look at this pre-snap, right, we've got a safety sky down right here and a deep safety right there. So this looks like this is going to go to cover 3, right? And these guys will all widen over, but that's not what happens. At the snap, call it rock and roll. This guy's actually going to come down. This guy's going to play the middle field. And so Brock has to process all of that with the motion. They shift, they rock it the other way. They actually end up bringing pressure. And so they're getting a 5-man rush and playing zone coverage behind it, okay? So here's the concept down here with Ayuk and Debo. Debo's going to run a whip route, and Ayuk is going to run a basic, but you're also going to see him be on the same page as Brock and throttle this thing down in the hole. And lastly, let's take a peek at Brock's pocket movement. Though it's not a highlight play, it's great subtle movement. So as we're looking down here, so Debo widens out, puts his foot in the ground, and that forces this defender. He sees Brock looking at him. He feels Debo coming back inside. This guy's got to drive, and that's going to open up a void over here for Ayuk. So right there, when 20 puts that left foot in the ground and settles, Brock, as that time's up, he climbs in the pocket, pressure from his right side, and he's able to decelerate on the front side, stop himself, not drift through this, and throttle down Ayuk in the hole. So again, you're sitting here going, he's throwing to wide open guys. Look at, there's nobody around Brandon Ayuk. Yeah, after he saw a late rotation that spun out of it, knows that he's protected, had to climb in the pocket and then find him. Again, it's people sitting on couches sitting here going, Brandon Ayuk's wide open. Well, hold on. This ain't Madden. There's a lot of stuff going on. Okay, this is a great example of him. Let's look at it from the other side. Let's look at how his eyes influence this. So as he's getting right here, he's seeing this rotation, seeing that safety, and now, right when he brings his eyes, right now, the stripe of his helmet's going this way, and we're going to see that stripe of his helmet switch to right here. So right here, as he brings his eyes over here, that's right when number 20 puts his foot in the ground to take Debo, which opens up Brandon Ayuk, understanding the void in the defense. Also, just low-key, check out like how he throws, protects himself. So this little guy who keeps playing and staying healthy, yeah, he's protecting himself. Okay? But he's also putting this thing right on Ayuk's belly button right there. Great ball, great anticipation. Safety's rocking the other way, bringing pressure, knowing unprotected, scanning, going from 1 to 2 to 3. It's a fantastic read. Again, he's a system quarterback. All he does is throw to open guys. It's hard to run a system. And this is arguably the most complicated system in football. So yeah, he is a system quarterback. He's operating a high-level system at a high level. That's super hard to do. Again, you don't just throw anybody else into that situation and expect the same results.
I absolutely love that film breakdown. I already love everything that he has to bring from a factual standpoint in regards to statistics, QBR, all those different types of things. We know that Brock Purdy has ranked at the top in a bunch of statistical categories, but that's why I think the narrative always gets turned back to, well, look at his offensive coordinator and Kyle Shanahan and look at the weapons around him. But if you watch that film breakdown, I say this all the time, so I feel extremely vindicated when having these arguments because, as you guys know, if you're following the channel, we cover both good and bad when being discussed about this team. And one of the things that I always say about Brock Purdy is that he does the small things so exceptionally well that it doesn't even catch people's eye. They don't even see it. He plays so well within structure that people are like, oh, that's the scheme. And Jordan did a phenomenal job of explaining and showing all the small nuances that go into a successful play, where just like he said, oh, everyone's going to say, well, look at Brandon Ayuk. He's wide open. Jordan does a phenomenal job of going through each individual step that Brock Purdy has to execute in order to make that look easy. And again, when you're really good at something, you can make very difficult things or tasks look very easy. And I've said this about Brock since last season, since his rookie season. He does all these small things exceptionally well, manipulating defenses with his eyes. Jimmy Garoppolo never did that. And we saw it from Brock Purdy in his first game against the Dolphins last year. And again, that play that Jordan shows, again, just shows all the small nuances and how Brock Purdy elevates the offense, elevates the scheme, pocket presence, stepping up. You had to see how he had to kind of change his arm slot and arm angle to fit that ball through into the passing lane. And he throws a perfect ball to Brandon Ayuk, who is wide open because he was able to manipulate the defense, understand how the defense was going to play Deebo Samuel, that is going to open up Brandon Ayuk. And again, this is why I always say this. You either don't know ball or you don't watch Brock Purdy. There are only two answers that can be thought of from anyone who has anything negative to say about Brock Purdy and tries to diminish what he has been able to do. There's only two things. You either don't know ball or you don't watch Brock Purdy. There's only two options. I've been saying this for weeks, and Jordan does a phenomenal job of explaining it much more eloquently and from a quarterback perspective than I can. And that's why I wanted to share it with you guys. And if you want to go watch the full video, he does more film clips, he does more film breakdowns, and I definitely think you should go and watch. I'm going to drop a link to his video in the description. Go watch the full video. He does more film clips. I just wanted to show one, but go watch the whole thing. And he just eloquently explains why Brock Purdy is a superstar, and he backs it up with facts and film. That's one thing that we don't get from all of these talking heads who have big opinions to say about Brock Purdy, but they don't actually reference anything of importance. What do they say? Oh, look at all the weapons around him and look at his coach. You don't know ball or you don't watch Brock Purdy. Hopefully you feel taken care of on this channel. Hopefully you understand that we are bringing you the truth through all these ridiculous Brock Purdy narratives, and we have been here every step of the way since training camp. And so hopefully you can kind of see what we've been working through, why we show the negative takes, why we counteract the negative takes, and also why we show the real, the football, the tape, all of that. That's why it matters, and that's why we show it. Let me know how you feel about this in the comments below. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.